The title is Endorsing War is a Secret Love of Death. I get accused of being a liberal by those who consider themselves conservative, and a conservative by those who think they are liberal. Actually, I'm a moderate who likes some individuals on both sides of the political aisle, like Ron Paul, Dennis Kucinich, and Cynthia McKinney. Here's Dennis addressing the House of Representatives. Quote, "Mr. Speaker, we make war with such certainty, yet we are befuddled how to create peace. This paradox requires reflection if we are to survive. Making and endorsing war requires a secret love of death and a fearful desire to embrace annihilation. Creating peace requires compassion, putting ourselves in the other person's place, and all of their suffering, and all of their hopes, and to act from our heart's capacity to love, not fear." End quote. Another man, Van Jones, said Dr. King didn't get famous giving a speech that said, "I have a complaint." It's time for us to start dreaming again and invite the country to dream with us. We don't have any throwaway species, nations, or children. We must birth a global green economy strong enough to lift people out of poverty. End quote. To me, there is only one race on Earth, the human race, made up of different color skin along with other variables. I choose life. What do you choose? I wasn't exactly sure who Van Jones is, so I took time to look him up, and he's founded a thing called the Dream Corps, and he was a CNN announcer. Now I don't like CNN. I've said that in quite a few videos, I'm sure. But he was a news commentator on CNN, and he's also an author, a non-practicing attorney. In other words, I guess he earned a degree, but he doesn't actually work in that field. And he's a founder of nonprofit organization, which is the Dream Corps. Anyway, that's a little bit of history about who Van Jones was, and a man of color, by the way, a black man. So it's not that I'm a racist or a political extremist. Again, I am a moderate. I don't know why that's so hard for people to think in terms of only you have to either be one or the other. On some things, I am a conservative. I believe that people that come into any country should come in as following the rules of filing with that nation and letting the leadership know that and be on record. I mean, I wish we didn't have to do that, but I don't think it's an unreasonable request in this time of terrorism all over, where terrorists are actually created by continuing to fight wars on one level or another. It's either an aggressive war, like some of the wars in the Middle East, for example, or it's an economic war where people of lower class, so to speak, are starved or in one way persecuted or another, given vaccines that poison their bodies and cause them the children to be born incapacitated or end up with diseases that cause them to die young. So many issues that are going on in this world that are the result of moneyed practices, people that have wealth and want to control. It's a control game. It's not a game of reason. It's not a game of just fully informing people so that they can make wise decisions. On the contrary, it's often a game of withholding information from people that will allow them to think intelligently and to make decisions based on real knowledge. So many of our education systems have been compromised, teaching people things that again, aggravate the problem rather than restoring sanity and peace to the equation. Because again, peace is not profitable. War is profitable. And hence we have people that have been in the political system for a very long time, infiltrating every aspect of our culture, including our religions, including our education. And of course, politics and business go along with the whole scheme of things, and the whole scenario that we're dealing with is riddled with half-truths and outright lies. And, you know, these people, if they can be called people, that promote war, I think it is a love of death. It's not something that is even rational. Yet the people, am I calling them stupid? No, sometimes they have extremely high IQs, but they're bigots. They're totally prejudiced. They're totally biased. And those words, though they seem like they're opposite, they're the same thing. It means you're playing one side against another. You're only on one extreme. You don't know the meaning of moderation. And yet there are people, even in Israel and in the United States, that are moderates. I would consider Dennis Kucinich and Cynthia McKinney and Ron Paul to be moderates. I'm not as convinced that Ron Paul's son, who is a senator, is as moderate as his dad. But again, that's the newer generation. There are people in my generation and people in the newer generations as well that are moderates and have embraced the concept of peace, at least mentally. But when are we going to get it practiced here on earth and get over our death destructions or life destructions and death embracing technologies, including 5G and all the other things that they're trying to roll out that compromise humanity's ability to thrive and to live healthy lives and peaceful lives. Again, peace is not profitable for these charlatans. War is a money-making system where they finance both sides to fight the war, providing weapons to both sides. And they end up destroying property and lives, and then they pay to rebuild the property that has been destroyed, and they borrow the money again from the same people. This system has to stop, and people need to wake up. We need to come to grips with the realities of our world as they exist. And it's not some future that we have to do this. It's right now in our present 21st century. In July 2019, we have to come to grips with the insanity of our leaders. And we need to embrace people like Putin, who acts, as I see it, with reason and with temperance and with a lot of wisdom. And out of Russia comes the hope of the world. That's what Edgar Cayce said a long time ago, back in what it was, 1930 something. I think he said that, or possibly even the 20s, but I mean at least the 30s and 40s. He was making comments like that in some of his channeled messages that he was getting from spirit, that he would go into a trance and he would give these messages. And out of Russia comes the hope of the world was one that was repeated on a couple of occasions at least, if not more than that. Anyway, folks, I want to love life. I strive to live as long as I can, and hopefully to help bring peace and sanity to the world in which I live. Namaste.